Hi friends, I'm reading another book to you today, and it is called A Bad Case of the Stripes by David Shannon. And this one is very funny, very silly little book. And it's about a girl named Camilla. Camilla Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them. All of her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in. So Camilla always worried about what other people thought of her. Today, she was fretting even more than usual. It was the first day of school, and she couldn't decide what to wear. There were so many people to impress. She tried on 42 outfits, but none seemed to fit quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked in the mirror, and then she screamed. She's got a lot of clothes, but she doesn't know what to wear. Her mother ran into the room and she screamed too. "Oh my heavens," she cried. "You're completely covered in stripes." This was certainly true. Camilla was striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. I know some of you girls would like that, but she did not. Mrs. Cream felt Camilla's forehead. "Do you feel all right?" she asked. "I feel fine," Camilla answered. "But just look at me." "You're going to get back in bed this instant," her mother ordered. "You're not going to school today." Camilla was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid of what the other boys and girls would say. And she had no idea what to wear with those crazy stripes. Look at how she looks. Wow. That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. "Most extraordinary," he exclaimed. "I've never seen anything like it." "Are you having any coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, chills, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, shortness of breath, or uncontrollable twitching?" "No," Camilla told him. "I feel fine." "Well then," Mr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, "I don't see any reason why she can't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should help clear up those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me." And off he went. There she is with Dr. Bumble. The next day was a disaster. Everyone at school laughed at Camilla. They called her Camilla Cran and the Knight of the Living Lollipop. She tried her best to act as if everything were normal, but when the class said the Pledge of Allegiance, her stripes turned red, white, and blue, and she broke out into stars. Look at that. The other kids thought this was great. One yelled, "Let's see some purple polka dots." Sure enough, Camilla turned all purple polka dotty. Someone yelled checkerboard, and a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon, everyone was calling out different shapes and colors, and poor Camilla was changing faster than you can change channels on a TV. Poor Camilla. She does not look like she is having fun. That night, Mr. Harms, the school principal, called. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cream," he said. I'm going to have to ask you to keep Camilla home from school. She's just too much of a distraction. I've been getting calls from other parents, and they're afraid that those stripes might be contagious." Camilla was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago, everyone liked her. Now nobody wanted to be in the same room with her. Her father tried to make her feel better. "Is there anything I can get you, sweetheart?" he asked. "No, thank you," sighed Camilla. What she really wanted was a nice, big plate of lima beans. But she had been laughed at enough for one day. There she is with her mom and dad. "Well, yes, I see," Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Cream phoned the next day. "I think I better bring in the specialist. We'll be right over." About an hour later, Mr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced them to the Creams. This is Dr. Grop, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young. Then the specialists went to work on Camilla. They squeezed and jabbed, tapped and tested. It was very uncomfortable for her. Well, it's not mumps, concluded Dr. Grop. Or the measles, said Dr. Sponge. Definitely not chicken pox, put in Dr. Cricket. Or sunburn, said Mr. Young. Try these, said the specialist. They each handed her a bottle of pills that were all different colors. Take one of each before bed, Dr. Grop said. Then they filed out the front door, followed by Dr. Bumble. So there's all the doctors checking her out to see what's wrong. They can't figure it out yet. That night, Camilla took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel a little bit different. But when she got dressed, her clothes did not fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there, staring back at her, was a giant, multicolored pill with a face on it. Uh-oh. That is not what she wanted to look like. Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called. But this time, instead of the specialists, he brought experts. Dr. Gord and Mr. Mellon were the finest scientific minds in the land. Once again, Camilla was poked and prodded, looked at and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers. Then they huddled together and whispered. Dr. Gord finally spoke. It might be a virus, he announced with authority. Suddenly, fuzzy little virus balls appeared all over Camilla. Or possibly some form of bacteria, said Mr. Mellon. Out popped squiggly little bacteria trails. Or it could be a fungus, added Dr. Gord. Instantly, Camilla was covered with different colored fungus blotches. The experts looked at Camilla and then each other. We need to go over these numbers again back at the lab, Dr. Gord explained. We'll call you when we know something. But the experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. Oh no. Poor Camilla is turning into all kinds of crazy things. By now, the TV news had found out about Camilla. Reporters from every channel were outside her house telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon, a huge crowd was camped out in the front lawn. Look at all of those people at her house. They all want to know what is wrong with Camilla. The Creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies from psychologists, allergists, herbalists, nutritionists, an old medicine man, a guru, and even a veterinarian. Each so-called cure only added to poor Camilla's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers and a long, furry tail, but nothing worked. Poor Camilla. She doesn't even look like a little girl anymore. One day, a woman who called herself an environmental therapist claimed that she could cure Camilla. Close your eyes, she said. Breathe deeply and become one with your room. I wish you hadn't said that, Camilla groaned. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became her mouth, her nose was a dresser, and 2 paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed and ran out of the house. What are we going to do? Cried Mrs. Cream. It just keeps getting worse and worse, and she began to cry. She was so sad for her little daughter. Poor Camilla. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet little knock at the front door. He opened it, and there stood an old woman who was just as plump and sweet as a strawberry. Excuse me, she said brightly, but I think I can help. She looks much more sweet than the doctors did. She went into Camilla's room and looked around. My goodness, she said with a shake of her head. What we have here is a bad case of stripes. One of the worst I have ever seen. She pulled a container of small green beans from her bag. Here, she said, these might do the trick. Oh my, no, cried the little old woman. These are special beans. Are they magic beans? Cried Mrs. Cream. No, they're just plain old lima beans. I'll bet you'd like some, wouldn't you? Asked Camilla. Camilla wanted a big, heaping plateful of lima beans, just about more than anything because she loved them so much. But she was afraid to admit that she liked lima beans. Yuck, she said. No one likes lima beans, especially me. Oh dear, the old woman said sadly. I guess I was wrong about you. She put the beans back into her bag and started toward the door. Camilla watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good. And being laughed at for eating them was nothing compared to what she had been going through. Finally, she couldn't stand it anymore. Wait, she cried. The truth is, I really do love lima beans. I thought so, the old woman said with a smile. She took a handful of beans and popped them into Camilla's mouth. They're so good, said Camilla. There she is, eating the lima beans. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. Then the whole room swirled around. When it stopped, there stood Camilla, and everything was back to normal. I'm cured, she shouted. Yes, said the old woman. I knew the real you was in there somewhere. She patted Camilla on the head. Then she went outside and vanished into the crowd. There she is, back to normal, and she is happy. Afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at the school said she was weird, but she didn't care one bit. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never had even a touch of stripes again. See, and just like Camilla, sometimes it's okay to like things that other people don't like because that's how you are unique. And God made all of us very special. Miss Rachel tells you all the time. None of us are supposed to be the same, look the same, talk the same, like the same things because you wouldn't be you if you liked everything everybody else did. So again, I love you guys and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.